Good morning, everybody. This morning I have the privilege of introducing you to Caitlyn Smith, a cancer survivor who has, after two cancer diagnoses, she discovered holistic health and decided she will go on the holistic health journey to support her cancer diagnosis. So I have the privilege of introducing you to her to this morning, and let's see if she's online. Let's invite her. Hey,
Hello.
good evening.
How are
Yeah,
you? Good
I'm good.
morning.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it's morning.
Yeah. How you
Well, thank you so
doing?
much, Caitlin, for joining us on this live. I'm really looking forward to your testimony. I've seen multiple of your videos. I've been following you for a while, and you're sharing really amazing stuff. So I'm looking forward for you to sharing it with my followers as well, so that if there's anybody that is seeking answers and seeking hope, that they can be inspired from your story. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. So,
Thank
Caitlin,
you.
so would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Caitlin. I'm in Australia, and yeah, I'm a health coach, which with I guess a focus on holistic cancer recovery. Really, I guess due to my own experience of going through two cancer journeys. One, which I went, the first one was through the conventional, system. And then I had a recurrence 9 years later, and I chose to go, with a more holistic approach. Um, and that was 9 years ago. So it's been 18 years in total,
Mm-hmm.
of, I guess, navigating health and all of life's challenges. Yeah, and so now I do that, I guess, helping other women, and they're, supporting them on their journey, and also use breath work as well, for help with emotional healing, and because that's often quite a big component.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
me. That's what I do.
Oh, lovely. So, would you care to share with us what type of cancer you had that you were diagnosed with, and was it both times the same type of cancer, or was it different types of cancers?
Yeah, so I had it was breast cancer,
Okay.
invasive ductal carcinoma, and the first time it was it was stage one, so which was good, but and it came about, I guess, after a pretty, I guess, emotionally traumatic period in my life. I was 26 at the time,
Oh,
and I
wow.
just split up with. This was in 2006, and I just split up with, who I thought was my first love at the time, and I was really heartbroken and all the rest of it. And then about 3 months after that, my best friend died, just completely sort of out of the blue, like really
Wow.
unexpected. And so I just had this overwhelming grief and, just heartbreak and all the emotions all at
Yeah, I
once.
can imagine.
Yeah, and then it was probably within about 3 months after that, I felt the lump, um,
Okay.
which is really interesting to me now because, I'll talk about it later perhaps, but just often that, like, a diagnosis or is preceded by, a shock or a traumatic
Mm.
event. It's really
Yes.
common. And so that happened. So I went to see, a doctor, and they were like, "Oh, you're only 26. It's probably just it's a cyst. Don't worry about it. It's a fibroid." And I was like, "Great," And so I just went along and continued on living my life, which wasn't a happy life at the time. I was, grieving a lot, and I'd never had any experience with dealing, with big emotions. And so I kind of drunk my way with alcohol through, the next few months, or many months actually. And then, but it was about 18 months later, and became aware of that lump again.
Okay.
And I think because it had changed shape, and it had grown. So I went and had it checked again. And then this time it was biopsied, and yeah, it was cancer. And so I, was pretty much rushed through the system as you do. It was just kind of like, it's all go, go, go. It's like there's this real sense of urgency to, like, you know, you don't really get a chance to think, and the next minute you sort of come out the other end like, whoa, what just happened? But I went, you know, I was put into medical menopause, and then I had chemo, I had a mastectomy and a reconstruction, and so, you know, that was all pretty awful, as I'm sure you can appreciate.
And that's traumatic as well.
Yeah, really. And like, I didn't actually consider that at the time, you know, like that was something that occurred to me much later. Just like, oh God, I think I've got PTSD, you know, like from not just the diagnosis, but from the treatments and just the whole experience. So that was something that I felt was never really spoken about either. It was just kind of like, you finished and then it was like, off you go, you're good now, see you later. And that's kind of when it all, you know, hits you like, whoa, what just happened? And so, yeah, I guess, you know, life moved on, and I had, you know, I guess a total life transformation. I changed everything. I moved interstate and, you know, slowly started, you know, getting my life back on track, I guess, and started learning about nutrition and, you know, the importance of detoxification and all of that. And then, oh, what was I going to say? So I was looking at all of that stuff, doing lots of research, really starting to like look at healing my body. And I started, you know, life moved on and things got better and everything sort of improved. And then I started a business, which was fine. And things were going really well until about 2015. And my health just started to really just decline again. And I had absolutely no idea why. You know, I was having frequent night sweats and, you know, and I was living in the subtropics, but I couldn't get warm. I was permanently just felt chilled, and my hair started falling out, and I had so many just, you know, mystery symptoms, I guess. And I was covered head to toe in eczema. And so I was led, you know, I read something on a blog, some random blog somewhere, because I tried so many different things to sort of deal with the eczema and nothing was working. And then I just read this post about someone who'd done a water fast, and I was like, got nothing to lose. And so I did that, and on about the eighth day, I had what I now know it was like a huge die-off, you know, symptoms. Like I just broke out in hives all over my body, like really intense for about half an hour, like unbelievable. Like I looked at my skin in the mirror, I'm like, it looked like reptilian, just like bumpy, like the whole thing. It was amazing. I was like, and I was terrified because I didn't know what was going on, but it turned out that I'd had this die-off of all of these worms, parasites. So I was infested with them and I had no idea, and I'd literally starved them out. So it was, you know, I mean, it was obviously really gross, but it was also really like, oh my God, like I've got an answer now. Like this is what's been making me sick. And so, you know, of course, back then I'm like on Cure Zone, because that was what the go-to was back then, looking up, you know, all of these other people's like testimonies of parasites. So I was like, all right, okay, so this is what I need to do now. I've got to like keep doing the parasite thing. And then probably I think it was about 2 months after that experience, I felt a lump under my arm, and I just knew, because I'd been so run down for like the whole year, and I just thought, oh, this isn't good. And so I had it biopsied, and of course it came back positive for cancer. And then I had a CT PET scan, and under the scan, like, because I had no breast there, so it wasn't sort of in the breast, it was all through the lymphatic system. It was on my chest wall, it was on the under the other arm, sort of up my neck, and really like in my groin as well. Like it was just, they were all the points that were glowing on the PET scan. So they wanted to also, so I'd had the biopsy under the arm and that was positive, but there was also now a question, because that would have been a really unusual spread for breast cancer. And so there was a question, well, perhaps there's another malignancy, it could be lymphoma, and that would have been consistent with the symptoms that I'd been having. However, I didn't go through with that second biopsy because from my point of view, it didn't matter what the cancer label was. The fact was I had cancer, and I had to now, like, from a holistic perspective, like, the treatment plan was going to be the same. So I didn't do that. And so I never actually found out if that was the case. It could have just been that I had huge amounts of inflammation because I was really infested, like tons of worms. Like
Wow.
like I was cleansing, for months and months, like a couple of years, doing, all the different parasite cleanses and whatever, in order to, like, sort of rebuild the immune function, heal the gut, the whole thing. So, yeah, that was sort of, I guess, a turning, like, but I felt really empowered because I had an idea. I knew what I was, I guess, in a way dealing with. Like, obviously, the cancer was obviously a problem, but I knew that this was like a big thing. And so I carried on doing that. And I eventually sold and got rid of the business because it was just causing me huge amounts of stress. And we all know stress is, a killer, and it just didn't feel aligned anymore. So that had to go. I was living in a moldy house in the subtropics, and it's really hard to avoid mold in, these areas. So there was several different environmental factors because my diet up until that point was pretty good. Like, I was down with, like, I used to do, like, the detoxes and, like, I ate pretty clean. But there was other stuff, and I still had never really dealt with that grief of my friend's passing from 10 years earlier. So, so it's what happened next. Then I ended up going to a clinic, one of the clinics in Mexico, to Oasis of Hope. And I did what's
Oasis
called
of Hope. One question.
Mm.
Is that Dr. Thomas Lodi's clinic, or is
No,
that...
I think that's Oasis of Healing.
Oh, okay, because I interviewed him a couple of
I
weeks
know.
ago.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought,
So,
oh,
okay.
great.
Okay, so
He's
yeah, I thought
wonderful.
his was in the US. I just wanted to double check. Maybe he had one in Mexico as well. And then I know
Yeah.
about the one of Charlotte Gershon that was in Mexico. Is that
Yes.
possibly the one you went to?
No.
Also
But
not.
that's the Gerson Clinic. So this was
Okay.
Oasis of Hope. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a few of them around in that Tijuana area.
Okay.
So that was the one that I went to, and I did it was called a dendritic cell vaccine. And what that involved was drawing some of my blood, isolating the dendritic cells, which is a type of natural killer cell, and then basically growing them in a petri dish and transfusing them back in, like, 5 days later. So
Nice.
yeah, so, and then obviously, like, the idea is for them to go around the body and, grow and multiply and do their thing.
Yes.
So I did that, and also IV ozone, which is unavailable in Australia. Why? Who knows? Yeah, so
I would
we
not
know
have
why.
guessed that. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Okay.
yeah, and so after that, so I didn't do a full treatment because it's just affordability, basically. So I just did those things, and then when I returned, I finally found a doctor who was willing to monitor, what I was doing, because up until then, for that sort of 12, 18 months or whatever it was roughly, I'd been doing it sort of off my own bat, and I didn't really know, like, if I was winning or losing kind of thing. So so that was really good. I found her, and she, was happy to order scans and ultrasounds and blood work and whatever. So so I finally felt supported. But that's kind of, it was a long journey, but that, I guess, is the most. Then I had I also had, when I had the reconstruction, I had that implant removed as well. And that was in 2018. And when I had a scan after that, and that's when there was no evidence of disease. So it was about 3 years in total of just constant cleansing and, building up my nutrition and, just de-stressing and detoxing and just complete life transformation again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That is an amazing
So
story. So, I mean, it's been, you said 18 years, correct?
in total, from the, well, yeah, 2006.
Okay. So,
Um,
I mean, it's been a really long journey where first off, it was the diagnosis, going through conventional treatment, and then, starting to go into the holistic health and nutrition and all of that. And then
mm,
when the second diagnosis came, you use the knowledge you've gained in the meantime and start applying it.
yeah,
And even though that in itself wasn't enough, it encouraged you to search for other answers and not just
yeah.
conventional.
Oh,
So
totally.
yeah, I think that is something a lot of people are scared of doing, that not going the conventional route because they
Yeah,
haven't done the research and they don't understand the power that there is in
yeah.
natural healing and all these
Oh,
other
goosebumps.
alternative therapies.
Yeah,
So,
it's
yeah,
so
so this
true.
is exactly why I wanted to interview you because I
Yeah,
want to share this message of
yeah,
hope. There is hope in alternative
yeah,
medicine. There is hope in all these alternative treatments. And I mean, it is not just therapies that you can go to, it is your everyday life that
yeah.
impacts, which becomes a therapy, basically.
Yeah,
It's
it
the way
is.
you
And that's
live,
the thing,
the way you
like,
move,
because,
breathe.
yeah, and that's the thing, like, there came a point when I ran out of money and I could no longer afford to do all, the expensive integrative treatments like the IVs and, the hyperbaric oxygen. And so I had to just go back to basics. So I was at the local gym in a sauna doing infrared saunas, and I was water fasting. And so I was just, and which was very affordable. But like I really
Exactly.
like, being out in the sun whenever, when it was sunny and drinking pure water and just doing like really back to basics.
Yes.
Um, yeah, because I mean, gosh, you could spend huge amounts of money, doing all of those different things.
Yes,
But
and I mean that is something
and
that the
obviously they're
medical
helpful.
insurance doesn't cover.
No,
So it is really out of pocket. So and that is the difficult thing, and I think that is almost what encourages people to keep going with the conventional routes is the
yeah,
fact that medical insurance covers that, but they do not
yeah,
cover holistic health and integrative medicine.
yeah,
So it's really dependent only on you and what you can afford. So
totally.
it discourages people also to go down that
Yeah,
route. So,
yeah. And
okay.
I guess for me, the other thing as well was because I'd been through the conventional,
Yes.
um, you know, system, and I had such a bad experience with it. Like, I mean, I just spent so much time in and out of hospital having blood transfusions and just, just things that I didn't even expect would happen.
Yeah.
And I just knew because I was so unwell at the time of the recurrence, like, I have no doubt, like, I just don't think that I would have survived that treatment, more chemo, if I put my
Yes.
body through that
Again.
again. Like I felt like I was dying. There was before I actually had the diagnosis, I would wake up in the morning and think, I look like I'm dying. What's wrong with me? Like why am I
Wow.
so sick? And so I knew
Wow.
like there was just because I'd had that, perhaps if I hadn't have had that experience, it might have been different. But because I had, I was like, do you
Yeah.
know what? I can't do it. And even if even if the goal isn't to like, cure it or go into remission, even if it's just like I just coexist with this now, like I manage it like people manage any other chronic illness. Like
Mm.
if that's what I have to do, then that's what I'm going to do. But I was just really like, I know I can't put my body through that again in the
Yeah.
state that I was in at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So,
So tell us about your journey into holistic health and healing and where did it start? What got your interest into that? And tell us a little bit about that part of your story.
yeah, well, I guess it all stemmed from that experience with the chemo.
Yes.
So after that, I'd finished, all of that, and a couple of years, after things settled down a bit, and I just started reading about natural health and really applying a lot of the principles, living foods and juicing vegetables and just all of it. Like, I mean, that was so alien to me at the time. So it was like, it was just so eye-opening. So I was like, oh my God, like I've got so much energy. Like I feel better than what I did before I got, before I had cancer. Like, and so I knew, I was like, all right, I'm onto something. And then, I just started watching different documentaries and things. And I started learning about, all of these great holistic doctors who, had in, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago or whatever, were having all of these, fantastic advancements, with treating cancer patients, but they were getting shut down, and driven out of the country. And I was like, hang on a minute. And then it's like it lit a firecracker under me. Like I was just enraged. I was so angry. And honestly, I felt like I'd been scammed.
Yeah.
I felt like I
That
had
betrayal.
just been taken for a ride.
Yeah.
Because here I was doing all of these things that don't work. And I was feeling better and better and better every day. And so I guess that was where it all started, really. Yeah. But it was because of that. It was because of, I don't think I probably would have ever, gone down that kind of a route had I not had the cancer chemo experience. Yeah. So
okay, so for me, where I think for everybody, once they test the waters of natural health and healing, or raw food, or all of these kind of extra things that is foreign and strange and weird to others, and you taste and see that it's good, and you start to see the effects of it, and when your inner being is just saying, this works, I feel good and I feel better, and then you're like, well, how can they tell me it's not working? Why do I feel so much better? Why do I feel so different? And I mean, I had a similar experience, and for me, that is what got my curiosity. I mean, I was invited to a green smoothie workshop.
Oh,
now,
cool.
back then, if you knew who I was, I mean, sugar addict, and the only thing that belongs in a glass is something brown. It's either a chocolate milkshake, or in a cup it's a coffee. It's nothing green. I mean,
or beer.
It was. I mean, I felt nauseated just looking at it, and where I was won over was when the lady who did. She's Australian, by the way. Nicole Van Hattem. I don't know if you know her.
No.
Anyway, so when she did her presentation and everything afterwards, the part that won me over is she divided us into groups. And said, let's have like a competition, who can make the best green smoothie. And she provided all the ingredients there. Now, God alone knew, if he wanted me on board, my team had to win. But you know what? She was the first one to taste it, and she said, this is the winning one. And I'm like, okay, I need to taste. And so when I tasted it, I absolutely loved it. It was so refreshing. The flavors are so intense.
Like,
and
you can feel your cells just absorbing it.
I mean, yes. And I mean, I went home that day. My kids were still small. I think the youngest was like 2.5, and which means the oldest one was probably around close to 5. I went home that day and I made them a green smoothie kind of thing, but something a little bit more to the sweeter side. And even they loved it.
Wow.
And that's where it started.
And my young pudding for kids, I find.
Yes, exactly.
It's got to be red.
Or blue, or whatever other color.
Green, just a bit.
And yes, exactly. And my youngest has ADHD, and I mean, she was a little disaster. And she was the one where the school will permanently call me in and say, okay, well, listen, we had this problem today. She was biting that one. She hit that one. This happened, that happened. And then as I got into this whole health and wellness thing, I started reading up, and it triggered my curiosity. And then I started finding articles talking about ADHD and, gut disorders and I'm like, okay, let's do this, let's do that, and let's try this. And I found Dr. Axe, and he was talking just about gut health and healing at that stage. And I started religiously, doing all these things. And it was just, trial and error. And I think it was after 2 to 3 weeks of doing this with my daughter, the school called me in and they said, it was maybe not 2 to 3 weeks, maybe like somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks rather.
Yeah.
And the school called me in and they said, what have you done with your daughter? I'm like, oh my goodness, what did
Really?
she do now? I'm like, well, because I mean, you expect the worst because you're now so
Yeah, of
used to it already.
course. Yeah. What's
And I
she
said,
done
why?
now?
What happened? She said, no, did you put your child on medication or something? Is she like on Ritalin or what happened? I said, no. And, um, and that's when I clicked. And I said,
Wow.
you know what? The only thing I've done is I changed her diet. I took her off of gluten. I took her off of dairy. And, we started doing these extra smoothies and stuff. And she said to me,
Wow.
she's always been the troubled child in the class. She cannot sit still. She permanently gets up and go around. In the last week, 2 weeks, she has been the helper in the class. She sits, she listens, she focuses. And that's when I knew there's
That's
something really powerful
amazing.
to it. So that's where my journey started. And I mean,
Wow.
you go through
That's a
these
cool
ups and
story.
downs. Yes, it is. So, and I mean, she obviously still has ADHD. It's not cured, but it's
Yeah.
managed. It is
Yeah.
completely managed.
Yep.
And I mean, even she notices when she has something too much of a thing that is not good for, because now as a teenager, they
Uh,
want to go out and they want to go with the friends. They
yep.
want to go buy what they want to buy and drink what they want to drink. And so she sees the effects. And then she'll come to me and she'll
Wow.
ask me, well, can I rather have some green smoothies again or something like that for a while?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Because even she
amazing.
noticed
What a
how it
testament.
affects. Exactly. It is. It is. So that
Yeah.
that was my journey into it, and that really encouraged me. So and then of course the curiosity just got into more and more topics. And yeah. So
All the rabbit holes.
yes. I don't think
Like,
all of
hey,
them yet, but I'm going down
what is
them.
this band? It works.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
oh, I see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yes. Okay, so let's change the topic a little bit. So that was just a part of my story, and thank
Yeah.
you for sharing yours as well.
No, thank you.
So anyway, so I want to know. So a lot of people, when they, have a cancer diagnosis, but they say, I know I don't want to go through the conventional treatment anymore, or again, or they've heard horror stories and they're scared of it,
Mm,
and so on. Family members and friends are not supportive. Have
mm.
you experienced that? And if you did, how did you handle it?
Do you know, I, I think because I had that first experience where I went through and did all the things, when it happened again, I didn't really encounter a lot of pushback, apart from like the doctors. But
Yes.
my it was mainly my father. He was 110% on board. And in fact, it was around the time when The Truth About Cancer web series was released,
Yes.
and so he bought
Yes.
the DVDs and that came with the book, the transcripts, and
Yes.
and we just watched the episodes again and again, and just hardwired all of the information into our brain, and read the books, and so that was really good. I probably Yeah, I didn't openly get any pushback anyway.
Okay.
Like there were probably people in my life who when I did have the second diagnosis, who I guess probably ghosted me. I didn't hear from a lot of people for several months. Most of them I did eventually, but like there's still people who I'd never heard from again, which I still find really weird. But um, yeah, but for the most part, and I think it's because I actually had already had that experience, and so I felt like I, I guess I kind of felt like, you know what? You don't know what you're talking about. I've done that before, and it's terrible, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it again. So I was really
Yeah.
forthright, and it was just like, no, not doing it.
Yeah.
Like so, but I think as I sort of moved, as the months sort of went by, and I started implementing a lot of the learnings from the DVDs
Yes.
and what have you, like I was improving, and you could see it. Like you could see the inflammation in my body was just going down, and I was slowly getting better. And so I think um for like other family members and friends, like that was reassuring that, oh, maybe she is onto something. And so
Mm.
yeah, but no, I didn't really get a lot of pushback, which was great.
Okay, that is fantastic because I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of people do get pushback, and I mean,
yeah,
it's out of that lack of knowledge and understanding as to why would a person choose that.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, back to a experience I had when I just started, putting my kids on, a healthier diet and so on. We lived in Qatar back then in the Middle
Mm.
East, close to Dubai,
Oh, wow.
and I started a Facebook group where I was helping the mothers,
Mm.
to give their children better lunch boxes, because in the
Yeah.
Middle East, if you see, I was a teacher for kindergarten for about a year, and I saw the lunch boxes. I mean, it is a chocolate, it's a packet of chips, it's a cool drink or a
Ah,
chocolate milk. If you had somebody that had a sandwich, that was few and far in between.
wow.
It would be deep fried foods, all of this garbage. So
Mm.
it was just like convenient food, just easy stuff to throw into a lunchbox and send it off with the kids to school. And so I thought I'll start this Facebook group and I'll share, our journey, and I'll share, teach the
Mm.
parents how to pack healthier lunchboxes, how to make
Yeah.
healthy dinners, which is more anti-inflammatory. And that,
Yeah.
I mean, if you actually want to like your child, you don't just want to love them, you want to like them too.
Yeah. That's a great
It's
way to
true,
frame it.
but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you love them to bits, but I mean, there's some days that you really just don't
Yeah.
like them. And
Yeah.
I mean, and so I had a lot of engagement with these mothers who, had similar struggles to me, and I shared with them what I'm doing and so on. And then I came down to, I don't know, it was an article or something that I read about the power of garlic as an antibiotic.
Ah.
And my kids at this stage, maybe now the youngest was around 6 years old. So
Mm.
already like about 3.5, 4 years into, this whole more holistic health journey.
Yeah.
And on at that stage in the schools, scarlet fever was going around.
Mm.
And so obviously my kids got it and so on. And I decided this is the first time I'm not going to give the antibiotic. I'm not going to take them to the doctor and not give an antibiotic. And
Mm.
I did the whole garlic thing. If the garlic's not working, great. I can take them to the doctor and we can do the
Yeah.
antibiotic thing.
Yeah.
And I shared that story on the Facebook group once I saw the amazing benefits.
Yeah.
The other kids in the class that were on antibiotics for 10 days and still haven't recovered, who still had fevers, who still were
Yeah.
unwell, after 4 days of garlic, like antibiotic, one in the morning, one in the evening with raw garlic, my kids
Wow.
were completely healed. No fever. They were running up and
Yeah.
down. They were ready. They were completely fine. And I shared that story. And just by sharing that story, the amount of messages I got telling me I'm crazy. That is one thing you don't play around with. That is one thing you don't do. And thank
Wow.
God I had a lady who was a trained herbalist. I think she was a medical herbalist. I'm not exactly sure. She was some form of herbalist, but she
Mm.
did the science of the plants and what works and what doesn't. And she sent me a full document
Oh,
of
wow.
what garlic is effective for. And
Amazing.
she said to me, Charlotte, don't worry, you are doing the right thing, because the streptococcus virus is killed by garlic. So you are doing the right thing. Do not be discouraged.
Wow.
It's okay.
Oh.
The science is clear. Garlic is effective. So do not
But
worry.
even like posting that after they had come through the other side and you still got pushback. It's just like,
Yes. But you see, I think it's one of those viruses where people, they are worried, if it's not dealt with, heart problems can arise, or, all of this can,
right.
there's a bunch of problems that can come, issues that
Yeah.
can arise if you didn't have the antibiotics. But anyway, so, just from that small experience, I mean, even family members told me I'm crazy, and they said to me, I
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it. Come back to me in 5 years. If your kids never got that same issue again, then I'll believe you.
Yeah.
Well, it's more than 5 years. It's probably 10 years. They still didn't get it again, and they're 100% fine.
Good
And
on you.
so, yes.
And everyone's
So, I
forgotten
mean, it's
about it.
um,
Oh.
so it's moments like that that teaches you the
Yeah.
power of healing that is in food. So food is medicine.
Oh,
It is
it,
not just an option. Food is medicine.
it is.
Lifestyle is medicine
Yeah.
or
It's
poison.
true. And
It's medicine or
yeah, or
poison.
poison, I was
Our
going to
choice.
say, and at the same time, or it's poison. So it's,
Exactly.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Mm,
So
mm.
let's see. Share with us the most important lifestyle and dietary changes to consider when you are diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, so
I mean, I know there's many because
yeah,
it also depends on, what's going on in the body, but what
yeah,
you've seen and what you've heard and what you've experienced and what you've
yeah.
done, the most important ones.
Well, I guess, I guess first of all, it's important to realize that at the root of cancer, or really any chronic anything, there are issues of toxicity
Mm.
and deficiency. And so the way to bring the body back into balance, so that to give it a chance so that it can heal and repair and regenerate or whatever, is to remove the toxicities and correct the deficiencies. So, and that, whether that's, diet, food things, environmental toxins, um, you know, emotional toxicity or stress, like whatever it is. So it's really, I guess the first thing I would suggest would be to really like take an honest look at the way that you're living and just note down the areas that could use improvement. But like you really have to be honest with yourself.
Yes.
And that aside, I guess probably like the easiest spot to start would be, or to control is really like what you put in your mouth, like you were just
Mm.
saying. And also, um, yeah, probably diet and looking at like the things like what you're exposed to, what toxins are you exposed to, especially if it's breast cancer. Like for me, like xenoestrogens, man, like they're everywhere in the environment. And that's what
Mm.
fuels the estrogen dominance. And so,
Yes.
like go through, the cosmetics and just you really need to overhaul everything. But I think like
Exactly.
if it's a hormonally driven cancer, I think, like getting rid of like just cleaning up the bathroom cabinets, the kitchen cupboards, the laundry. I think getting rid of those
Yes.
synthetic estrogens is a priority. And then food, like what you're poisoning or medicating yourself with.
Yes.
Like with the food. So they're probably, I guess, mainly the biggies. But even with the question of diet, like I get asked this question a lot, what's the best diet? And honestly, like I did a diet, like a whole food, plant-based, predominantly organic. Um, and that worked for me. But ketogenic diet works for people, macrobiotic diet works for people. What else? The Gerson diet, Budwig. So but the common denominator that they all share is that there's no processed food. There's no junk food.
Yes.
So it's just a
Yes.
case of like eat real food. Like don't or
Exactly.
avoid food basically that comes with a barcode is probably the
Yes.
easiest, way. So if it came from the earth, great. And if you're going, obviously, like I say, don't eat processed food, but there's things like, you can make homemade sauces and things like that's a form of processing, but it's the store-bought stuff
Yes.
that you want to just avoid. So eat real food and make it from scratch would probably
Yes.
be, yeah, like
Okay, so I see
one of the main
somebody
things.
has asked a question here. Now, this is a question that excites me because this is one of those questions you're not really allowed to answer.
Yeah. All right.
How about ivermectin, fenbendazole,
Oh,
doxycycline, and vitamin C IV? What liver detox is good? Coffee enemas and how to clean up emotional pain. Well, okay, so some of these we will get to. But let's talk about the ivermectin, fenbendazole, doxycycline, and vitamin C IVs. And then we can talk about liver. Liver is my absolute
oh,
favorite. So let's talk about first those type of therapies. Is that something that was included in your health journey, or did you go through other
Well,
therapies?
yeah, they weren't. So the vitamin C was IV vitamin C,
Hmm.
but the Fenben and the ivermectin, they, I wasn't really like aware of them around that time. I kind of became aware of, I think it's the Joe Tippins protocol, sort of around 2018 when I was, um, I guess I was sort of on the road to recovery by that point, and so, but I was always like my understanding was the reason why the Fenben worked was because it's killing worms. And so I had been doing all of this other, like herbal formulas and fasting and stuff. And so, and, different oxidative therapies as well. So I was sort of, I guess, taking care of them that way. So I didn't realize, and I think I learned this from Dr. Lodi recently,
Hmm.
like in the last 12 months or so, that the Femben actually deals with specific cancer pathways. And so I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
So I think,
Yeah.
so it has like a double, I guess, effect. So it's killing off, um, parasites, but it's also like it down regulates certain cancer pathways. I think that's right. Um, so yeah, but no, I didn't do the IVA or the Fembem, but I did do the high doses of vitamin C.
Mm.
And that, when it's at really high doses above 60 grams in an hour, it goes from being an antioxidant to a pro-oxidant. So it creates a hydrogen peroxide effect in your
Okay.
body. So it's an oxidative thing.
Yeah.
And so again, and I think that's why, like, it helps with a parasitic load and microbes,
Mm.
and I guess, and in that way, like helping to cleanse the blood as well. So um, yeah, and then the coffee enemas, I did a lot of coffee enemas. Yeah, a
Okay.
lot of liver
So the
cleansing.
coffee enemas, I mean, that's something I've heard so much about. And I mean, years ago, I even bought a packet of coffee to do it. I've never
Mm.
opened it. I was too scared. And
Don't be scared.
but so when you do a coffee enema, what is the effect? And share with us how effective is it really? Because there's so many people that promise so many things, but then if you listen to other
Mm.
people, you get the complete opposite effect.
Yeah, well,
Well, story.
yeah, look, honestly, yeah, well, I guess I should preface this by saying, like, when I was doing them, like, really regularly, I was
Yeah.
doing a lot of other things as well. So I can't isolate what was
Yes.
working and what
Okay.
wasn't, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, I did do them, and I did, there was a point where I was doing several, like, two, three, four per day at one point. But the idea is behind them is that it helps increase your body to make glutathione, which
Mm.
is a master antioxidant. And that
Yes.
helps flush the liver, basically.
Mm.
So that is the point. So then I guess there's also, the question of, well, are you knocking out all of the good flora, all the good
Yes.
bacteria in the colon? And I guess you probably are. I
Yeah.
mean, like, you probably are.
Probably not all, but yeah. I mean,
Not all.
if you're gonna use conventional coffee that has pesticides and
Yeah.
shit on it,
Well,
you
yeah, I mean,
probably
that's
would.
true. Yeah.
But if you're gonna use organic coffee's specially
Yeah.
for that, I don't think it will wipe out all flora, but I mean, it will
Yeah.
definitely affect the
It will have an
microbes
effect, but it's
balance.
also going to help, at the same time, whilst it's doing that, you've also having the effect of it's helping to also cleanse the colon as well,
Yes.
so like cleanse, like there might be, candida and like nests of, worms or whatever. So it's going
Yeah.
to be helpful as well. So for me, I was like, do you know what? Like, I'm eating so many fermented foods and I take a probiotic and I do, all of this sort of this other stuff. And I felt for me like that's what I wanted to do. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that really. Like, I
Oh,
think,
don't worry.
as I said, like I was doing so many different things, like I couldn't probably isolate if that was the one that did it, you know?
Yes.
But I mean, I guess the idea is like it's really like it increases, you know, it upregulates glutathione, it cleanses the colon, it flushes the liver. So it's just, yeah, I just felt that the benefits is, you know, outweighed, I guess, any sort of negative effects.
No, wonderful. So let's quickly talk about liver health and, overall sickness and disease, including cancer. So when you were diagnosed with cancer, had anybody ever told you that you've got like a sluggish liver or you need to look after your liver or was that, that was part of what you discovered afterwards? And how did you address that? Apart from a coffee enema, how else did you address it to make sure that your liver is functioning so that your liver can do its job to get rid of the toxic load?
Yeah, so no one ever said anything about that, especially not the first time. But for the second time, I guess I was a lot more aware of the importance of, you know, a properly functioning liver. And I guess the way that I cleansed it was really using a lot of different, I mean, aside from like, you know, getting in a lot of good nutrition to support, you know, all the different, you know, the detox, the two phases. But I was also taking herbs that support liver health, you know, like drinking lots of dandelion roots and milk thistle and, you know, berberine and, you know, just lots of other different herbal formulas. And what else did I do? I did castor oil packs as well, like over the liver
Over the
as
liver,
well.
yeah.
I did that. Not, I didn't do it all. Like I didn't do a lot of them, but I did sort of play around with it at one point. But yeah, and then I guess like the coffee enemas, but I guess it was really just like herbs and nutrition, you know, and different drinks. Like I was drinking Essiac tea, which is a blend of 4 herbs that help to cleanse the blood, help cleanse the liver, and you know that some of the herbs have anti-tumoral properties. And so I was drinking a lot of that, you know, about a litre of that sort of throughout the day, each day for a period as well. But yeah, and I think even just like doing, and I did, oh, that's what I did. I did a few different liver gallbladder flushes as well at one point, you know, like to release the stones. But again, like it's, yeah, like I really was doing so many different things and cycling different things, like that I kind of like probably like I couldn't isolate what was, you know, having the best effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was kind of like a full-time job. I mean, it
Yes,
really was.
I
Like
can
it was just
imagine.
every day, I had a spreadsheet. I'm like, right, what have I got to do today? And you know, that got exhausting as well.
Yeah.
You know, because I was just like so focused on this, like, oh, checking off everything off the list and like, you know, just obsessing about getting it all done and like not dying, but like I wasn't living. Like
Yes.
that's kind of what I realized at
Yes.
one point. I'm like, oh man, like I don't have a lot. Like I've got no joy. Like every day I wake up and think, cancer, how am I going to do this today? You know?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I can imagine that is a very overwhelming journey when you're becoming so focused and zoomed in. I must do this. I must do this. Am I doing this right? If you become so hyper vigilant on what is on the label, is there anything in there that I can't touch or shouldn't have, or so on?
yeah.
And I think it also becomes a very isolated lifestyle once you start obsessing about it. Tell us
Yes.
about how you freed yourself from that obsession. And that is where I think, if I recall correctly, that is where the emotional healing part also started.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess as I sort of said, I got to a point where I decided at one point, like, and this was even after, you know, not long after I'd been, you know, had the great result, because I still feel like, oh, I've got to keep it, you know, clear. Like, so I was still like in that frame of mind of like, you know, obsessing about doing all the things. And I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, and so I realized that I was just stuck in this fight or flight survival mode, and it was
Yes.
counter to everything that I was hoping to achieve, because the body can't heal when it's stuck, when it's in survival, because
Yes.
all of that energy is redirected to the limbs and
Yes.
away from the digestive system,
Correct.
like to prepare you to fight or flee from a predator.
Correct.
And so healing can't really happen, like not to the extent that I wanted it to. And so I
Yeah, and you can
realized
also not absorb the nutrients from all the
you're
food
not
that you're
absorbing
putting in your
anything.
body.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so I realized, like, I'm constantly on edge. Like, I'm just in
Yeah.
this like fight or flight, just stressing out about, ticking off all the boxes and getting, all the things done. Um, and so I knew, yeah, I guess that was like a turning point. And I thought, I ended up, I went and did a Vipassana meditation, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Yes.
And I just remember when I came out of that I just, like, when I drove there, I couldn't overtake trucks on the highway, because I'd overtake them, and then my heart would just like race up, and I'd start almost having a panic attack as I'm trying to overtake, and
Yes.
then I'd have to like pull back and go behind it, and it was awful. Like, I was just, my nervous system was just shot. But when I came out of the retreat,
Yes.
I was driving home, and I just suddenly, because it was a 6-hour drive, and I just realized that I was just sailing past, like,
Oh, wow.
and I was like, oh my God, like, I don't have the anxiety anymore. And so
Yes.
that really helped. Just like, it was really hard, but it really did help. I won't lie, it was one of the toughest things I've done. But the net effect was that, my nervous system regulated. So that was
Yes.
like the stress side. But then I also got to a point where I just noticed that I still had these behaviors, like behaviors and ways of being that I knew weren't in my best interest, like health wise. Like, I still help, like, people, something would piss me off, and I'd feel angry about, like, just feel annoyed, and
Mm.
I'd play it over and over and over in my head again and again, and ruminate and get lost in this story about, whatever this person did. And I guess you know, I figured out, like, I'm keeping myself stuck. I'm keeping my body in this, like, I'm flooding my body with these stress hormones, because
Mm.
I'm thinking about it all the time, like, whatever the resentment or whatever the grudge was. And so that, I started looking, I guess, into different somatic therapies then. One of them was called trauma release exercises, because it all kind of relates back to, childhood
Yes.
stuff,
Yeah.
like, I mean, everyone's got it,
Yes,
just
of course.
obviously to varying degrees.
Yes.
Um, and so I knew, like, that was probably one, like, I had all the diet stuff down, the detox stuff down. I was like, I've got to deal with, like, and it wasn't the stress, like, okay, I can manage stress. Like, I was doing yoga and I meditated. I can manage stress, but it was the emotional stuff and the thought patterns that I had to really address, because I just had ways of being that were just not healthy.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So, and then I discovered breath work along the way, and that was really like, it was really transformative in hindsight. At the time, I didn't feel like it was doing much,
Mm-hmm.
um, but sort of like, several weeks and months after, like, I just started to feel different. I started feeling happier. I stopped being angry inside.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was really, and I think a lot of that really just sort of stemmed back to, like, the chemo and, like, feeling scammed and my best friend dying. And all of these things that I'd never really addressed. And that these things, they store energetically in your cells, like in
Yes.
in your body. And so that's, yeah, the purpose or the benefit of doing the breath work is it helps to shift that energy, and it helps you to, you know, feel that emotion, so that, and feel it to its completion, so that it can, like,
Wow.
discharge from your body.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah. So that was really helpful for me as
So,
well, which is,
question.
yeah.
So, does the breath work, does it support all the organs, or because what I've heard, this is not something that I have researched or something. It's just I've heard it.
Mm,
I haven't gone down these rabbit holes
yeah.
yet. But that specific emotions are stored in specific organs, and which is one of the reasons why anger, unforgiveness is many times related to a cancer diagnosis later on,
Mm,
because it poisons the body,
yeah.
that unforgiveness and stuff that you are harboring here, and you just storing it inside your body. And so,
Mm.
does the breath work help to support all the organs that are storing these emotions, or is it just for specific ones?
Do you know, I've actually never really thought about that as a question, or like related that. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I know that, like, in Chinese medicine, all of the different organs represents a different emotion. So I guess it does. Like, I mean, it does. Like, I guess what comes up, like whatever comes up is what needs to come up, I
Mm,
guess. Like,
okay.
if that makes sense. Like, and I
Yeah, yeah.
know with this, so I do, like, there's lots of different styles of breath work, but, and the one that I do it's called core clearing breath work. Um, and with that, it's a process where during like the core clearing process, the, I guess, how to explain, you, you're basically, you're thinking about like whatever situation or whatever it is that's challenging you at the time. And then you breathe into and you start to tune into where any sensations that you're feeling in your body. Because our mind, the language of our mind, is thoughts and words, but the language of the body is sensations. And so the idea is to get out of your thinking mind and into your body so that you can, because, you can rationalize things cognitively. Like, you can talk about, say, oh yeah, I had this cancer thing and it was really awful. And I can be okay with that cognitively, but it's in my body. Like, if my nervous system is still,
Yes.
um, activated and dysregulated, my body doesn't know that. And so with the breath work, you're going into the body, you're getting out of the head and into the body to, sorry, um, yeah, to try and like feel and to see if there's an emotion attached to the sensations that you're feeling, and then allowing your like allowing yourself to actually feel that emotion, like really start to feel into it, because the idea is when you feel into them, like when you've got to feel it to heal it, is the expression. And so if
Okay.
you suppress them, then you don't ever like feel them to their completion, and so they, and that they're still in your body, but like that's when we start getting, annoyed and feeling agitated, and
Mm,
we become like an emotional pressure cooker, like occasionally like let off steam, and in the form of sarcasm or angry outbursts. It's because we've got a buildup of suppressed emotional energy that wants to come out, and so by feeling into those emotions, we can then like allow them to, I guess, complete and discharge. So
mm.
that's the idea behind it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the whole breath work has got to do with the vagus nerve, right? So it's stimulating the vagus nerve, and I mean, the vagus nerve is connected to multiple organs and systems.
Mm.
So it's probably that, through that stimulation where it brings that release, it
Yeah.
brings that, yeah,
Yeah.
where you go over from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic.
Yeah.
We switch
And
over.
again, there's different styles. So if there's some where you're breathing sort of more, I guess, like rapidly, or you're really sort of getting into like a fast breathing into a bit of a state, and so that
Mm-hmm.
is, like a more dynamic way to do it, I guess. And that is a way. But with this one, yeah, so you're, I guess, breathing, a lot more deeply, and just by breathing deeply and consciously alone, that helps to regulate, vagal or strengthen vagal tone. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, something that I saw that you posted on your Instagram, and I
Mm.
loved your analogy. Tell us about the bad apple analogy. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
No,
loved
that's
it.
good.
I loved that
Yeah,
post.
I love it too. I can't claim it as my own. It was actually when I finally found my lovely integrative doctor after a year of, winging it on my own. She sat me down and she said to me, "Look, you've got to imagine you've got an apple tree, and you can cut the apple off, but it's not going to solve the issue of more bad apples forming. You're still going to get bad apples, and the only way to stop bad apples from growing is you've got to find out what's going on with the soil, what's causing the apple tree to produce bad apples. Like, is it getting enough sunlight? Is it getting enough water? Is there a parasite or a fungus? Is it being choked out by weeds? Like, is there a mineral deficiency? And so a good gardener is going to look at all of these different variables and try to ascertain what's going on. Like, why is the apple tree producing bad apples? And she said, you've got to treat your body the same. You can cut or poison or burn a tumor out, but if you
Yes.
don't tend to like your inner terrain, to like the soil, your garden, then it's very likely that another one's going to form. And so you have to, and it's a similar list of questions, like, is there some like mineral deficiencies? Are you getting enough hydration? Do you get enough sunlight? Have you got a parasite? Is there a fungus? So it's a similar list of questions,
Exactly.
because we're nature, just like the apple tree.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I really liked that analogy too.
Yeah, no, I love it because I mean it makes it so simple, it makes it so clear, and from my experience, when I see people, when I help my clients, I tell them, you know what? At the end of the day, whatever you are facing is a symptom.
Yeah,
It's not the cause. It's a
yeah,
symptom of something else, whether it's being obese, whether it's a diagnosis, whether no matter what.
yeah,
That label is a symptom of something else.
totally.
So let's find the root cause and address it. And it's most likely a nutrient deficiency
Mm,
or overload
mm,
of toxins.
yeah,
So whether the toxins are parasites, mold,
yeah,
candida, fungus, whatever, no matter
mm,
what that toxins come from, let's address it. Let's support the liver, let's support the gut, let's support stomach acid, because a lot of people has got low
mm,
stomach acid.
yeah,
I mean, specifically if you had reflux and you had to, drink live off of Tums, or eventually got a PPI, or, any of those
mm.
kind of things. Or in South Africa, we used
Oh,
Enos.
oh, yeah, we have
All
that,
of,
I forgot about that.
yeah. So, there's so many different things, and even stress, even if you live off of carbs all the time, you are reducing your stomach acid.
Yeah,
And then the rest of your digestive system is struggling. And over time,
mm,
issues arise from that. So we have to get back to the basics and see, okay, well, how can we best support the body to heal itself? Because our bodies is a self-healing machine.
yeah,
This is how we have been designed.
very
And my way,
sophisticated.
yes, exactly. So my way of explaining to clients is that, you know what, this is like a factory. You
Yeah,
need to give it the raw material so it can do what it needs to do. And if, let's say,
yeah,
one of your parts doesn't have the oil it needs, it's not going to function.
yeah,
If one of the parts doesn't have the water it needs, it's not going to function. So if your body doesn't have the nutrients it needs, it's not going to function. It's not going to do the job it needs to
yeah,
do.
yeah,
And so at the end of the day, everything comes back to diet and lifestyle and movement.
yeah,
And so that is the part that I want to encourage people, no matter what symptoms, no matter what disease, it all
mm,
comes down to your body has got a need, and that need needs to be
mm,
addressed. Because,
mm.
like, when I spoke to Dr. Thomas Lodi, when I asked him, so what is cancer? Because he always speaks about,
The
the chronically
chronically
fermenting
fermenting
cells.
cells. I love
Yes.
it.
And yeah, me
Yeah,
too, me too. It
yeah,
just it puts a complete different
yeah,
perspective on it. And because then that's when you realize, but that is the area of the body that is trying to survive.
yeah. It's
It
doing it
doesn't
to
want to
invade
die.
me.
It's yeah,
It's an adaptation.
yes. It's your
Yeah,
body that is trying to live, not
Yeah.
trying to die.
Yeah.
And it's that is the mechanism it needs to use to try to stay alive. And so, and why does it need to try to stay alive? Because it's struggling to get what it needs. The
Yeah.
mitochondria is struggling to get what it needs. So there is this, it just starts to go wrong because it's not getting everything it needs.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, all sickness, disease, it's all because of, the body has a need which is not being addressed.
Yeah.
And, that is from my perspective.
Or emotional as
Yes.
well. Yeah,
I mean,
because that
like you
has a
said, emotions can be
physiological
toxic.
effect. Yeah.
Yes, because emotions can be toxic. So yeah, that's where the lifestyle and the exercise and those things also
Yeah.
come in. So yes, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, everything is not just diet. I mean, if everything
Yeah.
was diet, I mean, I think a lot
It'd
of
be
us
so
would have
much
been
easier.
fine. Yes, exactly. So,
Way easier.
okay, before we go on too long, let's get to what type of therapies and stuff does is offered holistically for cancer patients. So people can know,
Oh,
if they
yeah.
want to look for a more natural route, what type of options are there for them to look into?
Yeah. So, well, there's as someone already mentioned, there's IV vitamin C, but there's also other IV nutrients as well. Might be B vitamins, magnesium, like alpha lipoic acid. There's lots of other things as well. So IV nutrients is one. There is hyperbaric oxygen therapy. There is hypothermia. So they're, I guess, like the more, yeah, I guess, yeah, they're like sort of standard integrative modalities. Um, Gosh, what else? I've gone blank. There's ozone, unless you're in Australia. We don't do that here. Um, there's
Fair
ozone
enough.
therapy, which is excellent. It's such a good therapy. But alas, yeah, they don't do it here. Um, yeah, there's PEMF. There's so many different things. Then obviously there's, the nutritional therapies and, the detox things and yeah, then I get, yeah, like other different protocols, like as someone brought up the worming, the fembendazole, and that's that sort of thing as well. So there are lots of different things that you can do, but they all really they all have the same goal, I guess, and that is to restore balance to the body.
Yes.
So whatever mechanism it is, like with the hypothermia, you're raising the body temperature really, really high to help activate, well, three things: to help detox the body by sweating, to help weaken cancer cells because they can't survive above, a certain temperature, and then also you're activating a fever, so you're activating the white blood cells. So, but again, like all of these things, like they all really work, I guess, to restore balance in some way. So, the IV nutrients is the nutrition, the hyperbaric oxygen is to like help, oxygenate the body. So they're all reducing inflammation. They're all helping facilitate homeostasis and get the body back to a state where it can, deal with the cancer cells as it should.
So, and then there is the things that you can do for free at home,
and
like
then
fasting.
there's those things. Yeah. Obviously supplements it's not free. Like you could spend a lot of money on supplements. I did a lot of
Especially good ones.
especially the good ones. And, if you were doing enzyme therapy, like with the proteolytic enzymes, that can get quite expensive. And what they do actually is they're enzymes that help break down proteins. So the idea is that a tumor has a protein shell around it that protects it. And so it's breaking down that protein, kind of like, when a caterpillar breaks out of its cocoon, a caterpillar uses the enzyme serrapeptase to break down the cocoon. So that's also one of the enzymes in a lot of the formulations with the enzyme proteolytic enzymes. Yeah. Same idea. So you're helping to break down, that. But that, again, you need really, really large doses of them, and it really gets expensive pretty quickly. So that's not necessarily free, but it's an at-home one.
Yeah.
But yeah, then again, like, the water fast, or, fasting, and, to get autophagy to help break down
Yes.
tumors. It also helps to heal the gut. And and as I've learned, it's you can starve out worms. Like, turned out that it was a parasite cleanse of sorts
Wow.
for me.
Wow.
So I literally starve them out.
Yes.
And yeah, as I said, like, it helps to heal the gut, because the energy that would be spent digesting is then like rediverted to healing and repair. So you're healing the gut, and
Exactly.
that's where all like a large part of the immune cells are,
Yes.
which is what we
Yes.
need, in good
Exactly.
working order.
Exactly.
So
So
yeah.
when you do a fast, a water fast, how long do you think it's necessary to do the fast? Because I heard Dr. Lodi talk about, I'm pretty sure he said 41 days, but I don't know if he meant on the 41st day that they started with other things. So it's maybe just 40-day fast.
Mm,
Is that something that you did as well, the 40-day fast?
I attempted 40 days and I made it to 18. Um,
Wow, okay.
yeah, I just, it was too much.
Yeah, I can
um,
imagine it's very difficult.
yeah, I mean, you do, like, and it's really amazing. After a couple of days, you don't feel hungry, but it's just, it's just the boredom. Like,
Mm,
honestly, it's just like, I want something other than water. And like 7 days is a long time. But 18 was just, oh. And I
wow.
just got to the point. I just decided, you know what? I think I eat really well. I'm doing all the right things. I think I'm just gonna, like, slowly refeed, and, just like rebuild my nutrition levels up again. And then I'll just carry on, and I'll do shorter, like 7-day fasts. It was too much for me.
Wow.
And I've done like
And so,
quite a few before that, like over the
yeah.
course of 3 years, or 2 years, I guess, before that. But yeah, but they do say, like, you can, and I guess it depends on the body composition of the person, like how much weight
Mm,
they're carrying or whatever. Like, there's
yeah.
some people who
Yeah.
probably
Okay.
shouldn't fast at all.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, but yes, you can. Like, I've heard that a lot.
Okay.
I don't know anyone who's done 40 days, but I know that they say that you can.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and they say it's
Okay.
a biblical thing,
Yeah.
like they went into the
Yes.
desert and didn't eat for 40 days and 40 nights, and
Yeah.
then they get these spiritual downloads. And I can totally sort of relate to that, because you do feel more in tune with, like, a bigger, higher source.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's really
So, and
interesting.
yeah, no, I've heard great testimonies of it. Yes.
Mm.
So, do you think if you are somebody who had a cancer diagnosis in the past, that it is important to yearly do a fast, at least like let's say 7-day fast? Is it important, or is that just if the cancer is dealt
Yeah,
with, it's done, it's over,
I
you can
think
just
it's a
continue
good thing
living?
to do.
Okay.
I think it's a
Okay.
good thing to do, like, even if it's just, 3 to 5 days, because
Okay.
it helps increase, good stem cells. I can't remember. I've lost my train of thought, but it can actually be really beneficial, and, like, increase your immune cells up even after
Hmm.
72 hours. So
Okay.
I think, and just in terms of, like, it can just do amazing things for, like, healing the gut. And, most people's guts are,
Right.
myself included, like, are not in a good state. Um, and so it can be just, really a really helpful tune up for that. And
Yes.
I mean, it is an aggressive detox. So, it's probably not something I'd do without any kind of preparation first,
Yes.
because, if your
Good point.
liver and colon isn't ready to receive, like, that additional incoming
Mm.
toxicity, then it's just going to
Yes.
recirculate,
Yes.
in your body, which isn't good either. But yeah, I think if someone is open to it, like, I think it's a really helpful thing to do, as an annual thing.
Mm.
I definitely try
Okay.
to. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Let
Yeah.
me see. Okay, so what programs do you offer cancer patients to coach them holistically? So, I mean, if there's somebody listening to this and they maybe want to contact you, what do you offer
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, so I've got, it's called the Cancer Recovery Roadmap, and that is a 12-week program for, it's really for women who have been through cancer treatment who want to take control of their recovery naturally. And so it's really based on everything that we've been chatting about. So, like looking at the nutrition, looking at the, things in your environment, and then doing like, systematic, targeted detox of the different organs, whilst also like looking at, stress management and emotional health. And, so each week builds on, the previous. So it's kind of like creating new habits to
Okay.
really sort of set you up for success, I guess.
So, and is this an
Yeah.
online course or is this an in-person?
It's online. It's
Oh,
online,
excellent.
which, you get a login and a password for the content hub, and then you can, it's, I guess like there's videos and action tasks, which they are self-paced, but then there's like a weekly coaching call as well.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, that's
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, I think
So there's that, and
everybody,
also the breath work.
yeah, so I think everybody, they're always nervous to buy a online package because, then they have to work through it themselves and then they're not committed. So that addition of a weekly call, I think,
Accountability.
yes,
Yep,
yes,
totally.
it gives them a purpose to work towards because they know they're
Yeah.
going to have to, give account for what
Yeah.
they did or not do. And then,
Exactly.
I mean,
Well, and I
uh,
just
uh,
find it like, a lot, it's just like, a lot of questions come up, and we just,
yeah.
address whatever needs to be addressed. And it's actually, it's great. It's really good.
Oh, wow,
So,
well done. Okay, that's
thank
fantastic.
you.
Is there any other programs or is it only this one?
Well, I do that, and I've just recently, I'm in the process of finishing up my breathwork certification. So that should be done and dusted by the end of the month. So
Oh, well
yeah,
done.
core clearing breathwork as well for emotional healing and
Okay.
emotional health.
Okay. Okay, that's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
if anybody want to contact you to get a hold of your programs, Caitlyn is here on Instagram. You can just see on
Yeah.
the video above. Her name is there, so you can click and then private message her. She's great with
Yes.
responding to messages, which I
Thanks.
really did appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh no, of course.
Okay, so all right, now I've got a different question. For friends and family who want to support somebody that was diagnosed with cancer, what is one of the most practical and loving ways they can support somebody?
I think for me, just thinking about it, when I had the recurrence, um, I had a good girlfriend of mine. She would just ring me every Thursday before she went to the farmer's market and just say, "What do you need?" And then she would just drop
Wow.
off, just drop off the things. Like
Yes.
we didn't. There was no obligation. It was no like, come in, sit down. It was just like, here you go, and just drop them off. And it was great. It was just such a helpful thing to do.
Yeah, can
So
imagine.
things like that, even just, making like, and I guess a lot of people like probably freak out, like, I don't know what to make. What are you eating? But like,
Yeah.
like, a healthy meal, like, something without, added sugars and things. So meals are really helpful. Helping just with the shopping, like, the groceries, just there to like a couple of things that were really helpful for me. Even just like I had a friend just occasionally come around and just help clean up my juicer, because
Wow.
these things, just stuff
Yes.
like that, just
Yeah,
really
cleaning up
simple.
a juicer is a
Oh,
disaster. I mean, that takes a lot of
such a
effort.
pain.
Yes.
Like it's a pain to make it, but the cleanup's even
Yeah,
worse.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
yeah, they are a couple of just, practical things that are really
Yeah,
like
that is,
really
I
helpful.
really like that one. I never thought of that before. Um, yeah, because I think the most common thing that people think that they can do, is make a meal.
Yeah.
Um, when we lived in the Middle East, I had a friend who, well, there was two. One who had breast cancer, and then another one with pancreatic cancer. And when the one with breast cancer started going through chemo, the only way we could support her is to drive her to the hospital and back
Yeah,
when she needed
of
it,
course. Yeah.
because she's tired and or won't be able to focus on the road and so on, and to prepare meals. But it was only the really close group of people
Yeah.
who would check in on her and visit with her a little bit,
Yeah.
and go into the house and help her clean up, because she had
Yeah.
teenagers at that stage. So also, help where help was needed with the kids. But for the extended friends, you make the meals, you offer, you say, can I quickly go to the shop for
Yeah.
you? Can I drop you off
Yeah.
anything? Those tiny small
So
things.
helpful.
So with a friend with the pancreatic cancer, everybody wanted to help, but
Oh.
the husband didn't welcome it so much. So he kind of
Right.
maybe pushed people away a bit more,
Yeah.
to kind of isolate her, and
Yeah.
not really understanding why, but because it's specifically for a female, you want your tribe, you want your
Yeah.
people, you
Yeah.
want to feel
Totally.
loved. So,
Yeah.
um,
And
I
women
think
want to
it's
give, like nurture as
yes,
well.
yes, yes,
Mm.
exactly. Um, but I think also, I heard research that was done. I think it was a psychiatrist that spoke about it. She said that for females, we live longer because we connect emotionally with each other. We need that
Mm.
emotional connection. So for females who doesn't have that emotional connection, that close friendships, you
Mm.
tend to have more health problems because you don't
Interesting.
have that support.
Yeah.
So I think for a female that is going through it, it is really important to cultivate that friendships, and
Yeah.
especially in that time of need, reach out, help where you can, help clean up the
Yes.
house, clean the juicer, cook
Clean
the food. And
the
I mean,
juicer.
yeah, all that small little things that are practical, and, always just give a call when you can, and say, how are you
Yeah.
doing? Is there anything I
And
can
just
do for
be
you?
there.
Yeah.
Really. Just, yeah. Just ring.
Yes,
Or,
exactly.
yeah. Just be there.
So,
That's
but when somebody goes through chemo, do you think it's always okay to just call up because, they might be tired, they might be sleepy, they might not be in the mood to take the call or something like that? Because I think that is something that people
yeah.
have questions about.
Well, I guess by calling you don't have to answer the phone. Or, you
Fair
can
enough.
respond with a text message.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, I'm not up for it. I'll
Okay.
call you when I'm,
Okay.
you know. So I guess that's the advantage of mobile phones in a way. You
Yes.
can.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know. I mean, it was kind of a bit different because back in 2006, I'm just trying to like remember if I think I appreciated it, to be honest. But then in saying that, it was only, like you said, it was only a select few,
Yes.
girlfriends. So, yeah.
Okay. 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 All
Yeah.
right. Last one. Then we can wrap it up.
All
Okay.
right.
What advice or message of hope can you give someone who is currently going through chemo, or who has gone through chemo and is struggling with the recovery process from chemo and the PTSD, which many are struggling with post chemo?
Mm. I guess to know that there are ways and strategies to manage it, and there is support out there. And I know it sounds trite, and you've probably heard it all before, but like it will end. It really will end, and life will go on. But and when that time comes, um, yeah, I guess that's like reach out to people. Because people think, and tell people how you're feeling, because people probably assume, when you've finished it, that they just assume that you're good now and you're okay, and don't probably understand why you're not back to how you were, because they probably don't realize, the magnitude of what you've gone through. And so in hindsight, for me, I think I probably wish that I had been more honest with people and express how I was feeling rather than get annoyed and like, well, why haven't they phoned? Or, like, but people don't know. They think, oh, well, you're finished now. Like, cancer's over.
Now.
Like,
all right,
you're good now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the advice would be to reach out to people and explain, like, with people that you trust, and tell them how you're feeling, and if and how they can help support you.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so for women who is struggling with PTSD post chemo, because I heard that is a big thing.
Oh, yeah. That is a big thing. I think that is something that is very easy to ignore and just put it down to, gosh, I don't know. Just to, like, again, like, just suppress it. But the problem is that if you don't address that, then you're going to remain, as I was saying earlier, you're going to remain in that survival state. And so it's going to be harder for your body, like, to heal and repair because you're in that, survival mode. So they're both, like, they're just opposed. Like, in order to, so you really need to deal with that PTSD in some way. For me, that looked like doing, the breath work and the emotional healing work. But, there's other things, there's other modalities as well. But the point is, the longer you sort of leave it or just ignore it or, suppress it, maybe like with, anxiety meds or whatever, it's not actually resolving the issue. And so it's going to continue to manifest as stress and influence, your decisions and the way, you operate in life. And so it's something, like, it really does present as like, it's something that can really just cloud, like, your everyday way of being without really, it runs you, like, what you don't heal, I guess, like, it runs you. It's going to influence everything about your life. So it's really important to look at that and recognize that, actually, maybe, like, I do have some PTSD from the treatments themselves, because that was actually really traumatic. And people don't really talk about that. They just, like we were just saying, it's like, oh, just get on with it, back to life. It's like, I'm just going through a major trauma. Yeah. Like, it's huge. And it's not just the diagnosis, it's the treatments, and it could be like how maybe, like, you had felt that you had been treated by doctors, or how maybe like friends weren't there to support you. Or there's so many, variables. So, and that can, manifest as anxiety in the present moment, but it's a trauma. And I just think it's really, like, it's just not something that's really spoken about in relation to like a cancer diagnosis. So the PTSD is real. Don't diminish it, it's real. Like,
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I think if this was a fantastic discussion. I mean, we could talk for hours more. I could go on forever. Really.
I was like, I've been an hour and a half.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your testimony. Thank you for encouraging others, making yourself available, and sharing what programs you have to offer to bring hope and to bring healing and restoration to women. So I really appreciate you taking the time to meeting with me today and sharing. I really appreciate that. So,
thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. So I will repost this, and then you're welcome to share it also with your followers.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ali.
Thank you so much, Caitlyn. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Sleep well.
See you later. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.